All right. What's going on, everybody? How y'all doing today? We're back again. I'm Jay here every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time. We do a little bit of a hangout with coffee and cigars, and welcome to the Coffee and Cigar Show. As always, we're here, and now it is Thursday, August 3rd. Here on the East Coast of the United States, we are rocking and rolling, getting ready to do our normal coffee and cigars. How's everyone doing? We're just back. What did I do this week? I wasn't doing anything this week. I kind of wasted most of my day today, I feel like. It's just kind of like, what's up, Mom? Good to see you, man. How are you? How's things in New York City? Everything's good. The weather here is a bit cloudy and a little bit cool. Not too cool. We were smoking actually the other night. I think it was Monday night, and I thought it got chilly. I was told it was chilly. I don't know what... It's not so chilly tonight, but it's pretty nice out there, so I can't complain. But what else did I say? I don't know. Weather's good. We don't have the smoke from Canada, at least not yet. Maybe we'll get some later. And right now, it looks like it's kind of like for the last 4 hours or 5 hours. It kind of the way that the clouds have looked. It's like it's going to rain. But it hasn't rained. So I don't know if it's going to rain or not. But anyway, we got going on today. Today we've got our coffee of the day. Well, first we got our cigar today. So the cigar of this week is a vintage Don Juan Urquijo vintage Robusto. And I know that vintage sounds a little bit strange, but the name of the cigar is Don Juan Urquijo vintage Robusto. But this is actually a vintage of that vintage, right? Meaning that this cigar I bought as a 5-pack, probably. There's two ways it can happen, and I don't know which one it is anymore. Either I bought the 5-pack myself, probably around 2015 during a trip to the Philippines, somewhere between 2013 and 2017, right? Or it was something that my mom got for me while she was in the trip to the Philippines, but they haven't been there in a long time. So that's pre-2009 probably, or pre-2011. So I don't know what it is. It's older, and I've smoked all the other 4. This is the last one, and I don't remember the last time I smoked them, probably a couple of years ago. And from what I recall, they tend to be relatively mild smokes that are not too hard, not too crazy. Probably a good idea for a morning smoke, right? Like morning with your coffee, you're hanging out. It's a nice morning, and you want to get it rolling. Like the Robusto is a nice size. Maybe they also have a Corona. That might be a great way to do it. So that's kind of what we're going for. And so that's going to tie into our coffee today. Today's coffee is a little bit different than what I might normally bring. Well, I got a little bit of an itch. So for today's coffee, so here's the thing. So when you're a coffee roaster, you bring in all these coffees that you're roasting for different purposes, clients or customers or whatever. And invariably, you're going to end up with odds and ends, like maybe just too small an amount to utilize in your normal blend, right? And so you may have a lot of this kind of sitting around. And so today's coffee is what I'm calling the 17 blend, which is 17 different green coffees that were just kind of lying around. Actually, this is all from Matt. Matt came by today. He's like, hey, man, you want to try this coffee? I want you to tell me what you think. And I was like, all right. And he's like, these are 17 different coffees that were sitting around his roasting space, little bits of green, since he's volume-wise smaller than Spro. So he's got a lot of these small quantities of stuff. So he's like, I just all piled them into a bag and roasted them up. And I was like, well, okay, well, that's pretty much what we do here. We call it internally at Spro, we call it what we call the Balazo. And the Balazo is our kind of house blend where we just kind of whatever's left. And for us, we do whatever's left over in our roasting process. We'll just toss, maybe it's only a couple ounces every week. Toss that into a big jar. And then after, whenever anybody wants to drink coffee, they can help themselves to that. So, but lately we haven't had much of that because I've been running things pretty tight. So we don't really have a lot of we do have some overrunning. A lot of times we'll have guests that'll come by and they're like, hey, can we buy coffee? You're like, oh yeah, no problem. Come on. We got a couple pounds of this left over. And then, of course, I've got a lot of coffees from different roasters. So it's like there's always coffee to try. But we're going to try the 17 blend today and see how it is. I've got it all ground here. You can kind of see it there. It's pre-ground. Of course, we're doing 24 grams. How's it smell? I mean, it smells nice. Warm. Coffee. What more can we ask for, right? All right, let's see here. Let's get our brewing setup together. So today I'm just going to make it real simple in the V60 pour over. You know, just the really ubiquitous brew method of coffee making. And of course, we got the regular milliliter style filter. So I'm just going to fold it over point to point. And yeah, there it is. Nothing too crazy. Put that in there. Adds the coffee. Oops. Good, good. And, well, I don't have a timer. Let me get that timer running. So how about you guys? What are you guys up to? What are you guys having some cigars or drinking? Let me know. I'm interested to know. Oops, that's not the timer. All right, timer's ready. Let me get the water. I got water here that's just off the boil. One thing, I've also got a fan blowing across my face because inside the studio here, it's a little bit on the warm side. And that fan is kind of blowing across the element of the microphone. So if you can hear, if you're getting wind noise, let me know and I can adjust that. All right, so we're going to start by putting our water on. We're going to bloom it out. Whoops. I probably should go at a slower flow rate than this, but I'm really just going off the screen. So, all right, there we go. Now we're beginning. So as you can see here, the coffee is rising, right? Look at that. The coffee is rising a little bit. That's the bloom. And what that bloom is, it is CO2 that's produced as a byproduct of the roasting process. And it lifts the coffee up. Now, ideally, you want to wait a week after roasting before you really start to utilize the coffee because those CO2 byproducts will occlude the flavor a bit. But, you know, we're not so worried about that. We're just going to go with it. All right, so we're a little bit late, 48 seconds. I'm just going to add some water here. Now, you know, there's all kinds of ways that you can brew a V60 and different people will have different recipes and different protocols and different rules that should not be violated. Me, I don't necessarily have those because I've been doing this for a lot longer than those guys. And basically, it's a matter of saturation. So I want to keep the coffee grounds saturated with the water. And that's really the goal there, right? Is to keep that saturation rolling. We want to have the coffee to be ground fine enough so that we create enough resistance so that the total volume of water, which in this case is 350 milliliters, will flow through the 24 grams of coffee in about 3.5 to 4 minutes, while keeping the fluid, the water bed, the coffee bed at a consistent height. To me, that's really the entirety of brewing. Once you've mastered that, or once you get that, you should have great coffee. Now, that's not to say there's no merit to what those guys are doing. Like, there's a lot of merit to like all this precision, and some people want to be very precise about we're going to do it a certain way, and that's fine. But it's very difficult to reproduce like that. So, if you just want to make good coffee at home, this is really the key to making good coffee at home. You want to have the right temperature, correct temperature of water. You want to have the correct amount of water to coffee. You want to have, which is basically it. That's it. Coffee to water and water temperature and exposure time to the water. So now we're at 245 and we're just, I'm going to go a little bit harder there. We're just passing 300 milliliters on the brewing. Should probably turn around so that maybe the camera can see that. All right. So if you can, no, you can't really see that, but you can see here, it's just past three, just come to 300 milliliters. And we're getting, so we might be a little bit late. Maybe I've been talking too much and not really paying attention to what we're doing. We're going to keep going. And we're going to go till it finishes brewing. So here's the thing. So when you're making coffee, you choose a grind setting, you choose an amount of coffee, you choose an amount of water, and then you kind of like wait and then make a brew and you see how it turns out. And so maybe it runs a little bit longer. So you might think, okay, if it's running a little bit long, maybe I'm going to have to coarsen up the grind very slightly, depending on how much time it's over. So now we're right at 345, just adding a little bit. We're almost right to the 350 mark. And we're right at 4 minutes. So not a bad way to go. Let's see here. See? Not bad for an old guy. Oh, as always, I never have a place to put this when I'm finished. And now I don't have a cup to use. These are the things that I don't necessarily think about while getting ready to do this. Even though this is show number 153. All right, so we're just going to pour this out into this Bodum cup here. It's going to be our drinking mug. Okay, we've finished this time. Just about 4 minutes. Not bad. It's got a nice warm tone to it. I mean, in some respects, there's so many different coffees in here that it's really a melange of flavors and aromas. So nothing's too terribly distinctive. Yeah, that's nice. Warm, coffee tasting, cocoa, a little bit of bitterness, a little bit of tannic. Could be great with coffee. I mean, with sugar and cream too. Not that it needs sugar and cream, but I think it would be a fine addition to this. Maybe not fruity enough for my taste, right? Like this is one of the problems with that you have. Like, you just have a bunch of stuff and there's some a little bit strange flavors. Oh yeah, there's a couple things that I think there's a couple beans there that I don't really like. Sorry, Matt. Oh man. What's going on, Mad Mofo? How are you, man? Good to see you. Welcome to the show. How's everything going? Everyone here is doing well, looks like. We're having a coffee here called the 17 blend, which is just basically an amalgamation of coffee beans that are left over from the roasting, from the blending processes, and you just kind of mash them all together. We're just seeing how it goes. Yeah, I don't know. I think I would like to have cream and sugar. All right. So, there it is. The coffee, not bad. Not the greatest, but fun enough. All right, let's move on to our cigar of the day. All right, so like I said, this is the Don Juan Urquijo Vintage Robusto. And it's got actually these, we're used to seeing cello. I think in the Philippines, at least at Tabacalera, they put them in plastic. And I wonder if they put them in plastic because of the way they package. So it's really, when you buy cigars or Philippine-made cigars in the Philippines, Tabacalera does have like 2 retail outlets. There's one on Rojas Boulevard close in the city of Manila that there's a small cigar shop there that's focused on all of their cigars. And then they have another place that's inside the the Manila Peninsula Hotel, and you can buy the cigars. And those are like the most traditional of like what we would think of cigar shops. But for the most part, when you want to buy Philippine-made cigars in the Philippines, you have to go to the malls. And you have to go to the department store like SM, which is one of the big department store chains in the country. And in that store, they will on some floor, they will have this section called the Filipiniana section. And it's all about Philippine goods, candies, clothing, whatever Philippine made, they have it there. And they always sell these, but they're kind of like in the open, right? They're just kind of sitting there in the air-conditioned grocery department store. So, I think they package them in this plastic because I think it helps to, retain the moisture better than cello would. No, I don't know. I never even thought about that question until just this moment at the moment. Cultura, yes. Oh, yes, that area. Exactly. And so you just buy them and they're kind of out in the open. And I've bought, that was actually the first time. That's the first place I bought a cigar. So back in like 1992, on one of my trips, one of my early trips there solo, like when you're, when you grow up here in America, like, and you go to your home country when you're a child, of course you're going with your family, right? And so you get to a point where you're kind of older and you're like, all right, I'm going to go venture on my own, right? I'm a man now, right? I'm 18, I'm 19, I can be a man. Well, actually, I was probably 22 by that point. But I went to the Philippines and I was like, you know what, I want to explore the heritage, right? Like explore the culture, like Mad Mofo says, right? So I went to the store and I bought a box of these Corona Sumatras, is what they were, from Tabacalera. And I was like, all right. Flew home with them, box at like 25 or whatever it was. And some weeks later, I'm at my apartment in Honolulu, and I have one of these places that's kind of like in a high rise that's sealed windows. Like it's one of those like Florida ceiling glass walls, right? So it's really dramatic. It's really like Miami Vice. You're all like stylish. And I was like, all right, I'm going to try one of these Corona Sumatras. And I lit up and I smoked it. And I was like, all right, I'm a man now. And then I realized that I would never smoke in my place ever again, because for the next 2 weeks, that apartment reeked of cigars. I was like, oh my gosh, this is terrible. This is a complete mistake. So I haven't, and actually I don't really remember what those cigars were like so much. And I didn't smoke them. Actually, I smoked that one time. I never smoked it again until about 4 years ago. I decided that, or maybe it's 5. I was like, I wonder how these are. I still have the box. So I dug it out from the humidor. That went up. You know what? It was pretty darn good. After, how many years, I was like, all right, not bad. No, I don't know if this is gonna be like that. It could be. But again, back to what we're saying, you buy these typically at the groceries, at the supermarket, at the department store. I haven't been to a department store in such a long time. It's hard for me to get that to roll off my tongue. But it's kind of wrapped in plastic. So you can kind of see here at the bottom, it's got this, folding over. So sort of folded over there. Now, it's all kind of taped down or something. So I don't really know how easy it is to get out of the packaging. I'm gonna. All right, let's see if we can do this without damaging the cigar. Okay, it looks like it got. Okay, I'm just gonna peel it. Now here's where it gets a little bit tricky, because I'm trying to figure out, is it wrapped around it or And I kind of think I've cleared it, but it's not, unlike cello that normally will come apart pretty easily. This is plastic, so it doesn't come apart. I want to make sure that it will clear if I want to start to pull it through. Oh, there we go. Okay, there's our plastic. And here is our cigar. As you can see, it's got a golden, stamped band. Don Juan Urquijo. And Don Juan Urquijo, evidently from my understanding, was one of the original chairmen of Tabacalera many, many years ago. And this is named in honor of him. And as you can see, it's actually quite a nice looking wrapper, right? Like, look at that wrapper. It looks very pretty, very clean, very smooth. Now, this is actually made in the Philippines in, I think, the province of Isabela. The wrapper is a Philippine wrapper, and the filler and binders are, the wrapper is Ecuadorian. I believe it's Ecuadorian, Connecticut. And then the binder and the fillers are the binders from the Philippines, and then Dominican and Brazilian fillers. Yes, there it is. And it's a 5x50. And evidently, if you buy them today, they're somewhere around $7. I don't remember how much I paid for this because it has been quite a number of years ago. And they do come in, I believe, 20-count boxes. Like if we were to, let me see if I can find this. Here we are. Here is the 20-count box. This is from their Facebook page, Tabacalera Incorporada. And so you can get them in this big box here. Kind of nice. Yeah, so this is a fitting tribute to our late Spanish chairman, Don Juan Urquijo. And why Don Juan? Don Juan, I don't think that because he was necessarily a lover, but more probably because he was rich. In the Philippines, they've taken on, in certain circles, they've taken on the Spanish traditions of calling Don and Doña to certain levels of, social strata. Like if you're like from the upper class and you're really well-to-do, they'll call you Don, and you can live in a hacienda. It's not my family, but All right, so let's have a look at this cigar. Looks pretty. It's pretty. It's a pretty wrapper. Let me get our rating form. Oops. So I've already pre-marked the third designations. And I think that it's a very light wrapper. Like, look at this thing. This is light. So I'm going to put that really here on the lighter end. And let's see about our fragrance and cold draw. Oh, there's a sweet hay. And then, the overall sweetness, sweet. It's a very pleasant fragrance. Actually, I kind of have to be careful. My fingers, I was eating fried chicken earlier. Yeah, see, my fingers have a different smell than the sweetness. Oh, that's pretty. That's a pretty smell. All right, we like that. I'm going to give that fragrance nice. Time for the cutting. Of course, the Zycar is where we're going. Now, this has been in my humidor for quite a long time. And then it's been here in the humidor for the show for a few months. And here's something interesting. Let's go back here. Look, you can really see the difference in coloration between the wrapper and the filler. Like, look at that. That's really almost like this is like a Candelara kind of color, right? But of course, it is a Colorado color, but a very light Colorado, not a dark Colorado. But that was a nice cut. Okay. Oh, the draw, super easy. Super, maybe too easy. Hints of like cinnamon, like a sweet cinnamon, like the kind of cinnamon that you'd find on a Cinnabon. All right, good light. I'm going to say loose. I'm going to say loose. I'm going to give that good plus, which might be a little bit generous. All right. Oh, this thing. The fan. That's better. Not fully lit. All right, that's better. Much better. All right. The initial flavor that's hitting me from the light is a little bit on that bitter side, a little bit of acridity. I think that's because the burning really kind of comes through, that really combusts, and then it just kind of comes through the cigar. I'm going to guess that's because the cigar overall is relatively a light cigar, whereas I think, let's say, something like the Revenge or some heavier cigars, there's so much more flavor happening that it kind of masks that acridity, bitterness that would come from the initial light. Now, I did burn it a little bit extra, so it's a little bit uneven in the burn at the moment. So hopefully that will even out. Although it looks like there is a little bit of a hole. Right, look at that. Is that a hole there right here at the dip? I don't know. Now, when I was doing the cold draw, it felt super light, meaning that it was like super easy to draw and maybe too easy to draw. Now that it's burning, that's tightened up slightly. Actually, it's a much more for me, it's a much more comfortable resistance to the draw. Again, light notes. There's a little bit of cacao. There's a little bit of light tobacco. Definitely a lighter cigar. Definitely, I would like sweet, milky coffee. You know, it is very balanced. It's got a good balance. It's nice. It's actually a nice cigar. Now, it's starting to feel a little bit warm, and the wrapper has cracked. Right, you can kind of see that here. I don't know if that's maybe it's getting a little bit drier in the humidor. I'm gonna have to check that out. Maybe maybe our packets after 3 years are finally clunking out, or 2 years. Hmm. For a cigar that's light on the body, it's actually got really pretty complexity to it. Now, I don't know if that's because this cigar has a greater amount of age than it would if you bought it new. But, actually, I thought I would be disappointed or I thought I would be a little bit bored because, it'd be like, oh, it's too light. And it's like, but actually, it's kind of nice. And it's one of those things where, like the cigars we've had in the past, where the tobaccos have been together a long time. So it's not like, what did I say this? I think I said this about the aged Fuente, right? Where other cigars will have, very distinct flavor identification, right? It's like as you're smoking, there's this note and this note and this note, and they're like, hey, like the other aged cigar, this one is very it's very blended. It's very, what's the right term to use? In melange. It's very blended together, and it's very very harmonious. It's very enjoyable. Despite the fact that it's pretty warm in here now. That's the ironic thing. In this particular room, even though I may leave the doors, if the doors, not that they're open now, but if on days when I leave it open, this room is so far removed from the rest of the building. It's like everything is very slow, and it's always warmer in here. What's up, Steven? How are you? I'm talking about warming, and there's Steven, who's probably baking at 115-degree heat. It's not that warm here, but it is, warm. Actually, it's probably warm, I'd be in the Philippines sitting around at my cousin's house and just kind of like, well, it's kind of hot, but I'm kind of used to it. But I'll smoke a cigar anyway. Actually, I don't smoke cigars in my cousin's house because they're not into it. I have to go to a cigar lounge where I have friends that do smoke. But we do smoke outside of one of the hotels, the New World Hotel, and it's kind of like this right now. It's kind of warm, kind of hot, kind of humid, not so windy. But that is really surprisingly pleasant. There's a sweetness. There's an undertone of sweetness that runs through the smoke. I had been sitting on this for quite a long time. And I've transferred this cigar to the humidor here at the studio because I thought, I'm going to have a day when I'm going to be here and I just need a quick smoke or light smoke, and I don't really want to think too much about it. So I'll leave this here for that time. And then today I was like, well, what am I going to use for the show? And I thought, well, I could go to the local cigar shop and look for something. And I said, well, you know what? We've got this old Philippine cigar. Let's use that for the show. And you know what? I'm right now very pleased that was the decision because this is showing very well. Great balance, good complexity. Everything's very mixed in and balanced. And really, really fantastic. I'm really surprised at how nice this is burning. And this is smoking. The quality of the smoke is very good. The quality of the draw is excellent. The making of the cigar is excellent. Now, I think part of that has to do with the fact that quite a number of years ago, the owner of the company, or the guy that was president of the company, a guy named Juan Urquijo, who actually I know, we've smoked cigars together. We met a few years back, and then on a couple of my trips, we would get together and have cigars either at Tabacalera's headquarters or at the cigar lounge that I normally go to. And, you know, he's had some good ideas. Like one of the things that he really brought about to the United States or to their lineup was he updated a cigar called the 1881. And the 1881, he started mixing in Perique, you know, the spicy kind of like really kind of black tobaccos that are normally used in pipes that have a very unique flavor. And so he brought those in about 2017 or 2016. And they got a little bit of traction. The thing is about Philippine cigars, there's something about them that they don't really get much attention here in the United States. They've tried to import them a few times, but they just don't get a lot of, they just don't get a lot of, I don't know what, they just don't get a lot of love. I guess that's the best way to put it. And Steven says, heading home to indulge in a Toro Fuente double shot. Oh, very nice choice. I think you'll enjoy that very much. I enjoyed mine the other week. Quite a bit. What is it about this one? So this particular cigar was made. I'm trying to find. There's an article that I was reading about this that was telling me that quite a number of years ago, Juan brought in this guy. What is his name? Let me see here. I had it already, and I just can't. Now I can't tell you. So it was Juan's father that bought the company from the original owners, and they brought in a guy from Cuba named Alfredo Salinas. And Mr. Salinas was a master cigar maker, and he really brought a new level of cigar production to the factory. And so evidently they brought him here, or they brought him to the Philippines, and he started training the rollers to be better and new techniques and new styles, you know. So, I mean, the quality of the roll is and construction is excellent. Now, I haven't smoked a cigar made in the Philippines in quite a number of years. Definitely not during the pandemic. And I'm going to say I'm very surprised. Very, very pleasantly surprised. I just wish that I had cream and sugar in this. Like right now, going through this first third, and we're almost at the end of the first third. Man, this would be a great cigar for the morning. Like to start your day off. Like I would be stoked to be like, well, first of all, I'd be stoked to have a world where I could actually. Well, I really do have a world where I could smoke in the morning, but I just don't. Like I think that's a little bit crazy to smoke cigars in the morning. But if I could, and if I could cut on a regular basis, this would be great. I mean, this is surprisingly good. Like I wish I had. Now I'm kind of like, well, I wish I had done this before my trip, so I could have bought some while I was there. All right, so let's have a look. We are now at the end of the first third. Right. The body, of course, is mild. It's a very mild cigar. But I mean, the quality of the body has been at least 8.5. I said excellent earlier, so I'm going to say excellent flavor. And so that's it. 9 and 8.5. I mean, it's holding up well. Like I feel like I want to tap it out only because it's long. Like it doesn't look like it's going to fall apart or fall off. I mean, it looks pretty solid. And the one thing, even though it has cracked, even the band had cracked, right? It's not like, oops. Like even the band, you can see the crack right here, but it's not really unraveling the wrapper, which is good. Now, I don't know if that's because it's coming up against the first band or not, but oops. So what about the rest of you guys? What are you guys smoking? Anything interesting? Now they're rolling the second, third, and maybe I'm smoking a little bit hard because it's starting to get a little bit of acridity, maybe a little bit of heat. So maybe I need to like chill, take a step back, let it roll for a few moments. Maybe if it was in the morning, I'm just sitting in a chair at a table outdoors and sipping on the coffee, watching the world go by. Like if you could get like, and I don't know if these are available in the United States now anymore, and they used to be at one point, I think, but I don't know what distribution of the Tabacalera cigars are anymore in America. There was a company called Daughters and something that was importing them, but I don't know if that really did well. Like that's one thing. Like I think that Philippine cigars have typically had a difficult time getting a foothold, getting respect and recognition. Like this cigar was wrapped in plastic. And I think little cues like that kind of send the wrong message to the American smoker, right? Like I think here in America, we look at those kind of things, plastic wrappers or certain types of wrappers, as part of the gas station, drugstore cigar variety. And, it just signals that, and if you have a plastic wrapper, it kind of signals that. And is that something that holds people back from trying it? I would think yes. But this is a very fine smoke, very fine. And we're getting a little bit of sag. So I'm going to actually tap it because it came off pretty easily. So it's probably just the right moment. And I'm also going to take this band off somehow. Somewhere. Oh, there it is. So it says here, vintage blend. Whatever. And you can see the crack now fully. We'll see if the crack expands or not. Again, I think I need to take a slow approach to the cigar, because I do think that if you start to really pull on it, it develops bitterness, develops acridity. Oh my goodness. So how's your week been? Good. I was just watching earlier today the latest episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I am a fan. I do enjoy the show. Actually, I was sitting around. No, I was driving around earlier today, listening to podcasts. And there's one podcast I was listening to. This guy was talking about Star Wars and how he could do a podcast about Star Wars, a daily podcast forever and ever, because there's so much to talk about with Star Wars. And don't get me wrong, I'm a Star Wars fan. I was a Star Wars fan when I was a child. I saw the first movie like 15 times. I had one day when my father actually let me stay at the Westview Theater, and I kind of watched it back to back for like 4 or 5 showings. I don't know how I convinced that. That's just crazy. But the thing about Star Wars versus Star Trek is that I think I'm enjoying Star Trek more now because it's just a much more human and optimistic kind of show. Like it's about idealism, right? It's about hope and a better future. Whereas Star Wars is really just about just the worst of the galaxy, right? The worst. Like they're always under oppression. They're always, and only the evil triumphs. Evil always triumphs, right? Like we talk about, people like, let's say the first series, right? There's Luke Skywalker, and they're fighting, and he joins the rebels, and Han Solo, and they fight Darth Vader and the Empire. And sure, they blow it up, right? Like, so, hey, they won. Only to come to the Rey series, we find out, oh no, nobody won. They didn't win. The Empire just kind of morphed into the First Order, and evil still prevails. That ends, and then what is it? What's the reality, right? There's hope. Oh, here is Rey, and she's a fresh face. She doesn't know Luke Skywalker, right? She's not part of this Skywalker dynasty. Only to come to the very end of the show to find out that, oh, she's part of the Palpatine Emperor family. She is evil personified. So evil wins again. And so, I don't know. I was thinking about that today. I was like, it makes me not as enthusiastic for Star Wars as I used to be at one point. But this Star Trek, it's very lighthearted. It's very light. It's very enjoyable. It's about a positive future instead of a time, a long time ago in a far, far away galaxy that's totally under damnation. So that's my thought. That's what I was thinking about this afternoon. I was like, oh. But this new episode of Star Trek: Strange New Worlds is a musical. Like they're actually singing in the show, like a Broadway musical. It's different, and it's kind of funny. Not as funny as the crossover with Lower Decks, but funny strange instead of funny haha. But yeah, it's good. It's good. I'm enjoying it. And then I just started to watch, what's it called? This other show, Only Murders in the Building. Now, those of you who follow that show, yes, I am far behind. The show came out in 2021. I had heard about it, and I never watched it until I just started watching it the other day. Just yesterday. I watched like 4 episodes of the first season. And, oh, there's Brian. What's going on, Brian? Good to have you. How's everything going? And so if you're not familiar, it's a kind of a dramedy, I guess you'd call it, that features Steve Martin, Martin Short, and Selena Gomez, the pop singer, right? The one named after Selena Quintanilla. And actually, it's a nice ensemble. It's a bit slow. The first 4 episodes, like there's parts of me that are like it's kind of slow. It's kind of like what are we watching? What are we doing? Evidently, it's going to get better. But I kind of enjoy it. I'm enjoying the dynamic, and I think it's obviously it's good because they're about to release the third season. So I think I'm enjoying it now. Brian says, Steve, I'm sending you 10 of the LFDs we discussed when George was on the show. Oh, excellent. Steve, you're lucky he didn't send you those Camachos. Oh my gosh. So we were on a shooting trip last week, right? And maybe I talked about this last week, but he had these blue Ecuadorian Camachos that I had in the past in the Corona size, and I thought they're solid, fine cigars, enjoyable. And Brian been, arguing. He'd been telling me like, "Oh, this is terrible." And I finally smoked one. I was like, "Oh gosh, this is a dog rocket." It was honestly terrible. Like, if I had a box of those, I don't know. I probably wouldn't smoke them. Like, I'm going to send them to somebody. Who can I send that I hate? Oh my goodness. Anyway, so this Only Murders in the Building. It's pretty interesting. Like, yeah, I don't know. I'll have to watch more. I did finish The Bear. That was very good. Wait, did I finish The Bear? Yeah, I think I finished The Bear. 10 or 8 or 10 episodes. I finished Secret Invasion, Marvel's Secret Invasion. Did I talk about this last week? I don't remember, but yeah, I was reading this article today about how the original, like, evidently Secret Invasion was a comic book series that was adapted by the MCU, but in the MCU's version, it's very different than the comic book version. Like in the MCU version, or in the comic book version, like the Skrills take over, they infiltrate not just Brody, but Captain America and all these number of other people in the Avengers. And the Avengers are a much bigger part of the show, about the story, than in the actual TV show. But I get why they didn't do that for the MCU, because, you can't afford to bring back all those big A-list actors. And maybe, the guy playing Chris Evans won't come back to do it, right? So, yeah, I agree. It was just meh. It was like, all right, Nick Fury's done, and he's going to go back up to the spaceship with his Skrull wife. Oh yes, the Only Murders in the Building. I'm looking forward. Now that I was reading the news about it, and now that I've learned that season 3 is about to come out, I'm like, oh, I gotta pump through the first and second seasons. So I think I'm gonna do some cigar sessions to watch the So Brian, did you get to check out Bud and his new plinker? How is that? I'm interested to know. I was out doing errands today, and I ended up in a place called Essex here in Baltimore, right? And so our Bud was telling me before, he's like, hey man, if you're in Essex, you need to go check out this sub shop. They make their own crab cakes, and they're awesome. I'm like, really? Crab cake sub? That sounds pretty darn good. So I happened to be out by that way. Went by the place called Super Subs. Super Subs on Mace Avenue. Now, I ordered the platter, which was crab cake and fries. What I didn't realize is that it's a carry-out only place, so you have to leave. And so here's interesting. So I could buy a large Coke for $3.29. Or I could buy a 3-liter refrigerated bottle of Diet Coke for $3.49. And I was like, can I get a cup? She's like, yeah, I'll give you a cup of ice. I was like, okay, I will buy that 3 liters. And then I will have extra for, whenever I want to drink it. And so it was very reasonably priced. Like it was $15 or $16 for the platter with fries. But the strange thing, it says platter. I'm not complaining about it, but I was thinking in my mind sub or sandwich. There's no kind of bread to eat with it. Like otherwise, it's just like this big crab cake with fries. Fries were perfectly fine. Just frozen Simplot kind of fries. Crab cake was really good. Now, luckily, I had just gone to the grocery store and I bought a bunch of bolillo rolls, right? So these, the Mexican style bolillos. So I went to this new bakery and I found this bolillo and I was like, oh, I'll give it a try. And the local Food Lion makes bolillos and they're really soft and like, oh, I love the texture. I loved everything about them. So I tried this one. This one's a lot more, still soft on the inside, but very flaky and crispy on the outside. So like, I cut it open, shove the crab cake in there. Now, when you just have crab cake in a bread, it's a little bit lacking. Like, she gave me some tartar sauce, which is totally not Baltimore style. But I was like, you know what? I'm gonna use a little bit of tartar sauce. Made a nice sandwich. Made a nice sub. But like I said, the bolillo is very crispy on the outside. So man, there's like pieces of like bread crust all over me. I'm like, oh my gosh, man. I'm like, it's like I don't know how to eat. All right, Steven's excited for those LFDs. Excellent, excellent. So we're kind of coming through. We're still in the second, third, and there's definitely a change in the complexity of the flavors, right? So I will say like the first third, very, very, I don't know why I can't think of the term that I would like to use, but it was a very complex, very melange. It's a melange, right? A really melange of flavors. So none of them are super sticking out. Now that we've gone past into the second, third, that smoothness has given way to more. If the first third was smooth, this is a little bit rougher in the fact that like it's becoming dynamic. Like it's interesting. It's still very interesting to smoke because now we're getting more complexity that's kind of like popping out, right? Whereas the complexity of the first part was very smooth and melded into a melange. The second third is a little bit more pronounced. The flavors are starting to become a little more pronounced individually. There's a little bit of brightness, maybe hints of cinnamon and cloves. We always talk of cacao, but I would not say there's any cacao here. It's really this kind of like spiciness to it. How's it go with the coffee? Yeah. I still think the coffee would be better with cream and sugar. This is really, cigars are really great. Really, really. And it's different than the greatness of like some of the other ones we've had, right? Like if we think about the great cigars we've had, on the show, it's very different than those. It's much more of a smoother, lighter complexity, right? It's not punchy. It's not heavy. It's not harsh. It's not hard. It's not in your face. It's very refined, very refined. All right, I'm going to take this. We're getting close to burning the band. All right, so I'm going to take the band off. Hopefully, I was going to say, hopefully I don't drop the ash, which I just did. All right, band is off. Now, look at the time. It's 9 o'clock, and this has been a pretty fast smoking cigar. We're close to the last third. Let's see if we can stretch it out a little bit. I don't know if you guys been following the news, but of course you probably heard that our glorious leader has been indicted with 4 different counts of treason-ish kind of charges. I don't remember what they are now, but And evidently, I didn't realize it. I was looking at the news early before we started. I was like, oh, he was actually arraigned today, but they're letting him go. I mean, like, wait, like you could jail him, like we could jail him, but you know what? Like, where's he gonna go, right? Like, you jail people because you jail criminals because you think they're a risk of they're at risk of fleeing. He's the former president of the United States. He's got a security detail from the Secret Service. He's not going anywhere, right? It's not like he could just run away. Although that would make great television. Like be like, how could this fugitive escape from his own Secret Service detail and abscond into a non-extradition treaty country? Oh, that would be something. I mean, by all counts, like whether you're talking about his own money or the money that he's been raising from his supporters for his legal defense, I would say ostensibly he could actually go to one of these non-extradition treaty countries and tell them, hey, man, I'm going to come to your place. Here's several $100 million. Let me arrive. Why wouldn't they take him? I mean, my understanding is that's how it's done, right? Like a lot of these guys will abscond to other countries with non-extradition treaties that don't have extradition treaties with the country they're fleeing from. Like that guy, what was it? The French guy that like put himself in a box and flew in a cargo jet out of Japan. I guess he was CEO of Toyota or something like that. It's like, God, that's craziness. But evidently, from what I had read in previous things before that happened, like you don't really want to get arrested in Japan. Like those people, like they say in the United States that the federal government will not charge you unless they think they can win. It's kind of like that, but like on steroids in Japan. Like they won't arrest you and they won't charge you in Japan unless they're already going to have a conviction. And it's like, oh, and evidently it's not good if you get convicted there. I don't know the details, but that's what I've gathered from previous readings. But then earlier today, I was reading the news, and I saw some articles about how Harry and Meghan are having a falling out with Bex and Posh, right? And it made me wonder, like, you know what? I wonder, like Harry has this whole thing with a fallout with his family, right? I think even the Queen told him, hey, you know, whatever. His brother, his father, they don't like him. And it makes me kind of wonder, like, all this past few months, I've had the thought that, you know what, the king should just, you know, Charles should just, he's your son, give in to him. Good Lord, it's just, what do you have to lose, right? But what if Meghan is the problem, right? What if she's really the toxic person in their relationship and she's leading him down the path, right? Like the other side of me also thinks you have to wonder, like, if you're friends, like if you have a girlfriend and you introduce them to your friends and your family and they all pretty much universally hate that person, I've always kind of had the belief that should tell you something, right? Like if your family and friends don't like your girlfriend, there's a reason for that. And perhaps you should consider that. Now, of course, love is blind. You know, you're going to do what you want to do because, you know, you're in love. And she's not ugly. You know, Meghan is not ugly. Yoko, exactly. Like, I think my understanding, the other guys, George and Ringo and those guys, they didn't like Yoko, but John was like, she's the love of my life. It's bad news, man. Bad news. It's a life of pain. And when you have billions and they cut you off, that's a lot of pain. That's a lot of pain. And now you're trying to like sling things on like podcasting and doing YouTube like a loser. Like a nobody. That's got to be bad, man. You had like, you flew helicopters for the military. You like rode horses. The world was your oyster. And now you're trying to make a podcast and losing that deal with Universal. That has to suck. All right, so we're pretty much, I'd say we're now at the final third. Let's have a look. All right, so we're here. Yep, final third. I'm not saying, I don't think it improved. I'm going to say it's still the same. I'm still going to say that they're all relatively static. So 9 and 8.5. So something I'm wondering, like, for coming shows, any thoughts on cigars that you think we should be smoking on here? So we've done the Fuente, the Double Chateau Maduro. We've done the 1964 anniversary Padron. I don't know what happened there. What other ones should we be considering that are kind of like normal and or very well accepted cigars that perhaps we should have a look at? Let me know what you think down in the comments. It's a little bit feeling a little bit hot. Like it feels like it's getting hot on the draw, on the smoke. But I'm wondering, is that because of maybe maybe I need to relax on the drawing. So next Tuesday, I'm heading up to Philadelphia. I was able to get a ticket to go see the Oppenheimer in 1570 IMAX, which is the true film format of IMAX. So I'm presuming it should be epic. Although when I've watched IMAX movies when I was younger, like at the Smithsonian, after about 10 minutes, it's such a big screen and the cameras are like, let's say you're driving a race car like this, and like I'm starting to get car sick. Because you're seeing all this movement, but your eardrums aren't registering it. So you're like, I'm getting ill now. So I'm hoping it's not going to be like that. So I found the last seat at the 2:50 showing on Tuesday at the IMAX in King of Prussia. You know, at these theaters, they have like the companion seat to the handicap. Well, I looked at a bunch of these showings and it's like, oh, a lot of people have bought the handicap companion seat. And there was one left on Tuesday. I was like, oh, I'm going to buy that. I'm buy that right now. $24. I guess that's not bad. Not so great when you compare it to the Cinemax. If I go to Cinemax and I get the reserve seats for like, well, now that I'm part of the movie club, like it's instead of $23, it's like $19. So I was like, ooh, save $4. And you get free popcorn. Like, all right, great. I'll take that free popcorn. George Brightman, what's going on, man? How are you? Why not burn Oliva V, not a Melanio? Okay, I will go look for that. Oliva V sounds good. Any particular size you think would be appropriate? Brian has a special love for the Oliva V Lanceros. George says that by all reports, the experience of seeing Oppenheimer and IMAX. Yeah, I'm hoping that it is. I'm hoping that it is because like it is the true format. And Oppenheimer is the first movie that's feature length that is, a dramatic narrative that is pretty much mostly shot. It's not 100% in IMAX. I think it's like 85%. The others in 65 millimeter Panavision. And so there's a big difference between 65 millimeter and 70. And like you think that it's only 5 millimeter difference, but like on the 70 width of film, it's actually 15 perforations horizontally, whereas 65 millimeter Panavision is 65 millimeters with, I think it's a 7 perf vertical orientation of the film. So it's a little bit different, but it's the most that's ever been done. And I'm like, oh, that's worth making the effort to go. By the way, stick with a 3-hour movie with men talking indoors, yet still has worth it. Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to like the movie. I mean, I'm sure it'll be fun. I think it'll be interesting because I've been to the Trinity site And really, for me, it's just more to see what IMAX as a narrative is going to be like. I'm really curious into that. And, Nolan has some cachet in that respect as far as his movie making ability. Like, I have enjoyed his movies, Inception and whatever movie, Batman. But, there's only 30 cinemas, 30 theaters in the United States that have this capability. And the nearest one that's not Smithsonian or the Science Center in Baltimore is the one in King of Prussia. And it's like, gosh, really? There's only like a couple. There's only a few. And there's nothing really nearby otherwise. I think I have to go to New York City or down to like, I don't know, Georgia maybe or something. It's crazy. It's crazy. Like there's nothing nearby. Like I was thinking, maybe I'll go see it in Pittsburgh, but there was nothing in Pittsburgh either. Now back to Oliva V. Skip the Lancero because you won't find them everywhere. Why not do the double Robusto format? All right, I will go look for that. Double Robusto Oliva V. So I'm going to go up. So my plan right now is I'm going to go to Philly on Tuesday, go up early, have some steak lunch, cheesesteak somewhere, and then go to the theater, watch that, then go have dinner. And depending how long that takes, maybe go to a movie. I called my cousin that lives there and said, hey, are you around? She's like, yeah, I'll be around. So let's go. I was thinking maybe I'll go check out Lou Liga's place, but that's all the way down in Fishtown, which is clear on the other side of Philadelphia. I don't know if I want to go at like 6 p.m. to drive across the city. I don't know if that'll be fun. Or maybe 8 o'clock. And then I had to drive the 2 hours back home. George says, a classic smoke, always reliable, but overall, okay, great. Excellent. Maybe one of the LFDs too in the future. Any particular LFD I should be considering? The Double A Hero, maybe? You need to get your cousin to meet you and do Barbie. I think after 3 hours of movie watching, I don't know if I want to go see Barbie as well. But maybe. There's always that possibility. I would be interested. I am kind of curious to watch Barbie. I saw my young niece the other day with her friend. I saw them in the morning. They're all dressed up, like all real cute looking. They're like 13 years old, right? So they're all cutely dressed. And I was like, what are you guys doing? It's like, what's going? Like, she's at that age now, 13, where like fashion is a thing, and so she's into the whole indie alternative, right? Indie alternative, I think it's called, fashion scene, and her friends are all into that too. So I guess they're kind of like brats, Barbie looking. And I was like, where are you guys going? What are you guys doing today? She's like, because she's normally dressed up, but like now they were like really dressed up. I was like, whoa, what's going on here? It's like, we're going to go see Barbie. I was like, oh, all right. Excellent. Enjoy. George says, I got the right tea. Okay, I will wait. I can wait. What should I do in the meantime? What else? What should I consider? And Barbie is the perfect antidote to the 3 hours of I can imagine. So this part of it is burning hotter. So there's a little bit of heat masking the flavor, but still nicely balanced. It's still a well-balanced cigar. Like if this continues, I don't know if I would say that it's excellent. Maybe like very high on the very good plus. But so far, quite surprisingly good. Like, I don't remember it being this good. I mean, it has been quite a few years since I smoked this cigar from the batch. This, like I said earlier, this is the last of a box of 5 that I bought or I received. And I don't even know how old it is. Like, it could be 8, 9 years old. It could be over 10. I just don't recall. I don't remember if I put the year that I bought it on the box or not. I'll have to go home and check if I still have it. One thing I did find recently was a 5-pack of the PDR Red Label half Coronas. And then I also found a few sticks of Cigars International had these half Coronas that were made by PDR. They were pretty much PDR's production of the Red Label, but without bands. And I was like, oh, I bought those really cheap. I was like, oh, this is great. Still very enjoyable short smokes. George says, another selection for classic smoke, widely available, but still top notch and not pricey. Jaime Garcia. I love the, okay, I'll give the Jaime. That sounds good. Oh, yeah, those tins were really fantastic. I will try these Jaime Garcia. I need to retry those again because, strangely enough, like I know a lot of people really love the Jaime Garcia stuff. I have found over the years, and I've tried a few of them, the white labels, the blue labels. One of my friends, Dave, gave me a box of the Bellicosos and the blue label, the original. I think they were the original release. And I smoked through all of those finally. It took me years to get through them. But for some strange reason, like why I really gravitate towards Tatuaje, I found that the Pepin line stuff has not really been my favorites when I've smoked them. Like they were good, but there's something about the flavor that just didn't really like entice my palate. But I'm happy to go back and try them again and give them a proper go. But we're not that out so that we have got our and George says the Jaime limited release have consistently been impressive. Okay, all right, sounds good. And Mad says that he loves the Tatuaje Cabaiguan. Oh, yes, those are very nice. Those are always very nice. I think Tony had a bunch that were from, if I remember correctly, and George will correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that Cabaiguan he was making for a while, and then he stopped making them for a bit, and then he reintroduced them after the FDA rulings. And I don't know if I've tried the new ones. So yeah, okay, that sounds great. That's a great idea, Cabaiguan. I keep thinking I'm going to swing by Raul's. I haven't been down there in like quite a long time. I need to go by and check those out. I better write these down. Jaime Garcia. Oliva V. And Steven says the Romeo Julieta Reserva Real Nicaragua Churchill. All right. R&J. Ooh, these are good lists. We've got quite a good selection here, stuff. This will carry us through the fall. So we're going to be doing some remote locations and coming up in the next few months. I've just secured a trip to, we're going first, Ecuador to Quito, which I didn't realize was 9,000 feet. I think I'm going to be in trouble. Like I can go to Mexico City now, no problem, 6,500 feet. Denver, 7,500 feet, no big deal. I don't remember having troubles going, but 9,200 feet. Oh man, I don't know. I'm a little bit concerned. George says later releases of Cabaiguan are sneaky great smokes, particularly the 10th anniversary of smoke. Oh, all right. Maybe I'll find those. I wonder if there's still more of those left. Hey George, I don't know if I mentioned this on the show before, but like about 2 weeks ago now, George called me up and he was like, "Hey, I've got Reinhardt with me, Reinhard Porin from Vienna, who works for Mirfel." And they came by the roastery and we hung out, had a cigar, real nice time. And Reinhardt holds a live stream on Facebook through Zoom on Wednesdays on East Coast time, 2 p.m., which is 8 p.m. in Vienna. And he's got real great participation from around the world. And it's different than what we're doing here. Like here we talk on YouTube and, there's the chats are over the chats. Where there, I think that my understanding is that everybody is on the Zoom itself so that everybody calls in and you can talk and like smoke, and sounds like a real nice time. But I was wondering, George, if you might know what that broadcast, that live stream is called, because I was looking on his Facebook page, but I didn't notice a link to it or anything. Overseas podcast, great fun. Quito will go. Oh, yeah. Leave your pet. Well, I will. Actually, I don't normally take my passport out of the hotel. I'm actually kind of paranoid. That's the one part of traveling where I'm actually paranoid about things. Like if you lose your passport while you're on the road, like that's a big hassle. Now you have to go to the consulate or the embassy and you have to try to prove that you're a citizen and hopefully get them to issue an emergency passport so you can return to the United States. And then you have to go and get a new passport, which right now is taking months. Actually, a friend of mine just did his renewal. It took him 3 months to get his passport. I'm like, oh, that would be a pain. That'd be a pain. So hopefully. But luckily on these trips, since I'm usually, I'm being hosted by the local organization, normally they take me around and I don't really have to worry too much about falling into too much trouble. Unlike when I go to Nicaragua, especially when we're in Managua, there's a lot of trouble you can get into there. So we're kind of getting close to the end already, and it's pretty early. We're gonna see if we can take this all the way. Yeah, so Quito will be at the end of August. Like I think it's August 26th. I'm leaving. And then that'll be right to the beginning of like the first weekend of September. I think I'll come back on the 4th or 5th. So we should have an episode from Quito. Hopefully I'm not too ill. And then in early November, I think November 4th, I'll be heading down to Lima in Peru to do another competition down there. And then evidently we're going to go back to Saudi Arabia in December. So that's going to be coming up. And the nice thing about Saudi is that I've kind of gotten used to like doing the 4 a.m. show there. Yeah, 4 a.m. and then go to bed. Luckily in Saudi, since they're a hot country that likes to do everything in the evening, even if I do a live stream starting at 4 and run till 6 or 3 till 5, we don't start the competitions until like 4 or 5 in the afternoon. So there's a good amount of time for resting. Like we were there last year in October in Dammam. The nice thing of that hotel, if you recall, had a smoking room where it was relatively comfortable. So that was a nice place to do it. And then, then when we were there in Riyadh in December, we did it. There was a space outside the hotel. I was able to do the live stream there. That was good. Man, it is warm in this place. The only thing about the roastery that makes it a little bit difficult is that, like here in the summertime, the roastery itself is a big concrete building built on a concrete slab. So in the summer, when the slab gets hot, it's always warm. So it's always warm here. Like we were smoking on Saturday, on Monday, we're smoking just outside the garage, outside the roasting rate. And, it dropped down into the 60s. But once you cross the threshold inside the roastery, even though the garage doors are open, and it's like 20 degrees warmer. It's like, wow, it was really, really. So I was getting a little bit chilly outside. I just step inside for a moment. Then be all right, I'm fine. Let's go back out. And then conversely, in the wintertime, the slab gets cold, and so it's always cold. Like even if I'm pumping the heat, it still gets pretty cold. And Brian says it's actually a little cold outside. Oh, yeah, it's not so cold in here, sadly. I wish more of that cool air would come through this space. That's the one thing about this office space. There's a big bay window, but it's a solid glass window. So it's not like I can open it. If I could open it and let some air flow through, that would make it so much more pleasant to be inside. And I'm not running the AC because when I'm running the AC and the exhaust pretty much sucks up all the AC anyway. So actually, what I really want to do is I keep thinking about it. I should turn the AC on, turn the exhaust on, and go stand outside where the AC dumps into the atmosphere and just see how cold it is. Oh, we're really getting down to it. I think at this point we can finally do our scoring. Let's have a look here. So I'm going to say that the last third wasn't quite as solid as the first. So I'm going to say 8.75, and the body's still low but still consistent at 8.5. Burn has been great. Draw has been great, so I'm going to say that's a 9. Consistency overall, I'm going to say 8.75. Then overall, let's say 8.75 as well. Okay, great. So George has just sent me a message, and I will show it to you. So if you're interested in catching Reinhardt's live stream on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. here on the East Coast of the United States, here it is, Light 'em Up World. And so this was just this past show. Garrett Robinson from How About That Cigar and Don Doroteo Cigars. And I guess they were talking about the PCA convention and trade show and welcoming Garrett Robinson, accomplished cigar media professional, podcast host, former independent broker, and recently appointed VP for Don Doroteo Cigars at the Light 'em Up Lounge. All right. So there it is. So if you're interested, this is where you want to go and check them up. lightemupgo.com. Light 'em Up World live streaming. Well, I'm going to follow that now. So that's where you're going to check it out. And then let's have a look here again at our totals. So we have 8.5 plus 17.5, 17.5 plus 8.75 plus 8.5 plus 9 plus 0.75 plus 8.75, and that gives us a total of 87.25. Oops, I forgot to get that up and running. Just a second here to get up this. All right, let's say 87.25 for the Juan Urquijo vintage. Today is 8/3 episode. And let's see where it places us. 87.25 gives us number 5 of the year. Oh, wow. It's 153. All right, so that's pretty good. Ahead of the H Private Reserve Robusto Brazil, and then just behind the La Plena 125, the Fox Dublin, Tatuai Lomo, and the Mirfel Mare. All right. George says that the show is typically less U.S. centric, more international by participation. Yeah, I'd definitely check that out. Definitely going to do that. Yeah, impressive, isn't it? This is impressive. I'm really surprised, and I must really be enjoying because I kind of want to keep smoking. One of the nice things about this cigar, compared to a lot of the other cigars that are heavier in body and heavier in forward flavor, is that, like, especially when I get to right about there, like I've said in the past, I'll get this like kind of choking reaction because I'm getting real close to the smoke. I'm not having that this time. Maybe a little bit earlier, but lately, past that point, no, it's been very, very smooth. Great complexity, really, really great in smoking cigar. Sadly, I don't know about availability here in the United States. At one point, there was a company that was importing them, a company called Daughters and Ryan, but I don't know if they still import any of the Philippine cigars anymore. For a while, they were importing the 1881s from Tabacalera that were this blend, but also mixed in with a little bit of Perique. But I don't know how that's done over the last, 7-8 years, or 6-7 years. George says, by the way, I would also love to see you bring one of the new Timeless by Michael Herklots this summer, but maybe, I have not tried that yet, so I will definitely. Timeless. I have not seen those out, or maybe I have seen them. Maybe I saw them at Raoul's. I'll have to double check. All right. I think I'm going to put this down because, maybe a little more. All right, now it's burning my fingers, so time to put that down. All right, it's a little bit earlier than normal, but that was a really relatively quick smoking cigar. I think we started right around 8:20 or so, because the coffee didn't take as long. So now 9:33, so just over an hour of a smoke. So pretty nice. A lot of people the reviews that I read were talking about how this is a great cigar for coffee in the morning. Great morning cigar. And I would definitely say this is a great morning. It's not a heavy cigar, so like I'm done now. I don't feel weighed down. Like sometimes you smoke heavier cigars and you're like, I'm just going to chill for a while. This is actually a really pleasant smoking. Very enjoyable. George says, I can bring with him for us. Excellent. If you promise me another, absolutely. Whenever you're ready to come up, you let me know. We're happy to host you and Tony, and we'll do another session of cigaring. Too bad Reinhardt wasn't here on a Thursday. We could have had him come out and join us. That would have been really nice. Maybe next time he comes to America, we'll get to do that. All right. So I guess that's going to be it for today. Thank you very much for tuning in. As always, Always glad to have you. We'll be back again next Thursday, 8 p.m. here on the East Coast, and have a good time with it. With your permission, I'll bring some cigars. And of course, there's Eileen's coffee is always welcome here. Eileen, if you're not familiar, George got some coffee from a place called Ritual. That's a coffee roaster based in San Francisco, owned by a friend of mine, Eileen, who I've known since we both started in the business about 20 years ago. She's got a great little shop in the Mission District. She actually started with a business partner, Jeremy took her, and he decided to break off and start his own company, separate company, and then met a bunch of scandals that were reported by the San Francisco Chronicle. I don't know what happened to them after that. Sorry I was late. Oh, of course, no worries. You're always glad to have you. Thank you for tuning in. And I know everyone loves to see you. But anyway, time to head out. Thanks for tuning in, and I'll be back again next week with another episode of Coffee and Cigars. So until that time, have a great one, and see you next time.